Now, I like to think of this as like I'm pulling and pushing. So we talked about opposition. So there's two different muscle groups working against each other. So you get your triceps, you get your biceps. Those are one's pulling in, but this one's resisting it. So it pulls it in a nice contracted, slow way. Same thing, when I push it out, my arm is in a very controlled. It's like if I were doing a push-up. My arms are still moving, but they're tight, like the muscles are being used to resist and to push. Okay, so you have to resist your own self, your own muscles. And that's what makes everything look natural, because you're just following through the normal range of motion for these joints. Okay? The elbow joint does one thing, it bends, and it goes back that way. It doesn't really you can't rotate your shoulder. Okay? This part just does that, that's it, that's all it can do. Okay? This part down here can turn, but this just bends and straightens, that's it. Okay? Shoulder has a lot of range of mobility, which is fine. So we'll get some different things for that, but the elbow just does that, that's it. Okay? Wrist has a little more mobility, and the forearm does as well. But we want to just kind of think of the opposite muscle groups working together to hold the bones where they need to be. Okay? So there's opposition, say, in my upper arm here. There's opposition in my right side to my left side as well. So you can see I'm opposing sides as well. So there's opposition within the opposition. Okay, it's like inception of opposition, right? So I'm doing rotation of one forward, rotate of the one back. In the meantime, my bicep is working against the back of my arm there to squeeze that out in a nice controlled fashion. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to have it be floppy, right? So it's just floppy. This is when it looks lame, right? We want it to have life to it. So somebody once told me, it's a little bit cheesy, but somebody once said, devotion to the motion creates emotion. And I didn't say it, I'm not taking any credit for it. Somebody said it. Anyway, some studio I worked at some point, somebody said that to me. So what they meant was, if I'm devoted to what I'm doing, if I've got energy in what I'm doing, then it makes it look more alive, and it makes it look a lot more energized, because there's energy in it, right? Versus it being just sloppy or unfinished. Okay, so we talked about the hips going 100%. We want the rest of the joints to go 100% as well. So I'm rotating myself literally as far as I can rotate. So I'm pulling this back and forth as far as I can, right? So there's a lot of rotation happening here to get my back and shoulders to rotate, and that's a good thing. Right? So when I turn the shoulder over, see how it's a little bit higher than this side. Okay, so this shoulder is a little bit lower, this one's a little higher. That's just the way that shoulder joint works. So when it rolls forward, it tends to bring this side of my rib cage forward, and it tends to go over the top. And when I pull it back, it starts to pull it down. That's just what the muscles do. Okay, don't fight it, just go with the natural. The more you fight it and try to do something weird, that's when it's going to look disjointed and awkward. We want it to look coordinated and fluid and smooth.